So, Jesus, welcome back to Casa Altos. We're here in Arandas at the newly refreshed distillery, if you like. It's undertaken a facelift, really showcasing great Mexican architecture and design. And I'm currently here because I'm working with one of your prodigies, Stefania and the team in the lab on a completely new project, which I'm very excited about, but can't talk too much about. And we're still going through this kind of crazy time in our lives, which is completely unusual. It's a global pandemic. We've taken the utmost caution for me to be here. I'm not allowed to really socialize with anyone else, and it's a very protected environment. I haven't left these four walls, but I thought it was important and a good opportunity to invite you at a distance for a couple of reasons. One, I'm a big fan of you, and I consider you a great mentor. But also, I hear that there's something to celebrate. I hear that you've been involved in the alcohol business for 40 years. That in itself is a lifetime. And most people in this industry last a quarter of that, if they're lucky. So I thought it was a great moment to sit down with you and just share some questions and allow the audience to hear from your perspective the view on the world. Before we get going, as you can see, I'm surrounded by a few of your creations. Tezon is unfortunately not around any longer. I think that was ahead of its time. Probably got like the starting point, Olmeca, where it all came about. One of the first bottles of Altos there. And then here on my left, I guess the family of Altos as it now stands. And I've got a couple of tasting glasses. So,
Sure.
Let's crack this open. I guess for you and I, this was in many ways the starting point. So here's a nice double measure for you.
Thank you.
Nice nails. And I'll pour myself the same amount. So cheers over there. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go straight into this. I think I'd quite like to know, because if you speak to a bartender, very few bartenders say it was always the plan to be a bartender. Most of them thought about being anything else but a bartender, an engineer, an actor, you name it, but they kind of fall into it. So, did you fall into this career, or was it something very orchestrated and planned? Tell me how you got into it.
No, it was definitely not planned. My original plan was to become an architect. I studied architecture for a few years, and then I got married, and my first son was born, so I had to look for a job that became a career.
That's a really interesting path, and it sounds like it wasn't overly planned, but things, whether it be by fate or time or luck or whatever, have brought you back here. And to that, I also wanted to add, because I've we hear lots of different things, and you've worked with lots of people I now consider colleagues and friends and almost family that have been in some way, shape or form part of this Altos crew, whether it's ambassadors or brand people or from marketing department, and so I wanted you to maybe just clear a few things up. I heard that you were something to do with the build of this distillery. How correct is that? I mean, did you have participation in the design, etc.?
It was a tremendous experience for me, coming back to my homeland, Jalisco, and working with a team of expert engineers, specialists in civil engineering, process engineering, bottling equipment, and things like that. So we looked for the site, looked for the construction company to build it, and as a team worked on the design of the distillery. I had the opportunity to supervise day-by-day construction. It took us about 18 months to build it. The idea was to take into account the colonial architecture of Mexico and build it into the design. We were pretty happy with the result.
So we're very lucky that we had you on the ground, and you helped to find this location up here in Altos. I think that's been very key for everything related to the project. So the other question is, I have heard that you also trained as an accountant. How true is that, or is that an urban myth?
Yes, in fact, 40 years ago, I started in an accounting department in the bottling facility in the Bay Area in San Francisco. That was my first job in the industry. Inventory control, and then cost accounting was second. But I had the opportunity to be just about in every area of the operation there, including maintenance, planning, human resources, and last part, which was very interesting, quality assurance. That was very, very interesting.
That's great to know, because I think for someone like yourself who, we use this title of Maestro Tequilero, if we're to break that down, what that really means is the manager of the factory. We have this glorified title, for bartenders, we're now, master mixologists, if you like, which is crap, really. We're bartenders, but I think the true identity, and I think I read this from another distiller, Desmond Payne, who makes Beefeater gin, and I consider him to be one of the greatest distillers of all time. But he said, in his words, really that's someone who has a good understanding of the business and how that's run. So going back to the point of you having some experience in the financial side of things, I think is very important. Would you agree to that? Do you think that has played a good aspect of your role here?
Well, it definitely helped. Well, I started in accounting 40 years ago now. I was in inventory control, and then cost accounting. And since I was a quick learner at the bottling facility where I worked in the Bay Area in San Francisco, I was involved in the different areas: shipping and warehousing, maintenance, bottling itself, production planning, human resources. And the last job that I had there at that facility was quality assurance. And that was very, very interesting to me. And that's, I think, when I really got hooked on staying with the industry. It was a tremendous learning experience with a lot of people with a lifetime of experience in making distilled spirits. So I took the opportunity to learn as much as I could, and then applied it to starting up the operation here in the distillery in Altos. Yeah, accounting definitely helped me because we had to start from scratch. And even before we had 1 day of operation here, I had to prepare a budget and present it to my boss in New York. So preparing a budget without ever operating the distillery was a big challenge. And that experience in accounting helped me to prepare that. And I was able to maintain our budget the first year within 3% favorable.
So we heard about your experience in America, working with whiskey, working with the bottling plant, and finally they asked you to kind of come back home. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, I was really fortunate. For most of us in Mexico that travel to the US and spend years, maybe even a lifetime there, and we always wish to come back here to retire, or sometimes even when you pass on. For me, it was special because I was able to come back and work in the industry that I had been for a while, and offer my experience in North America, because it was US and Canada, and to apply that knowledge and learning in making tequila. It was an opportunity for me, and I enjoyed it very much.
And where exactly were you born in Mexico? Where were you from originally?
I was born in a town not far from here. It's called Del Cantiche. My family moved to California, and I moved along when I was 11. So I kind of finished growing up there in South San Francisco. So I went to high school, college eventually, and started in the industry 4 years ago. And I was already working in the industry for about 15 years or so, when the opportunity came to be back to my homeland and make tequila. So it was exciting for me, and it was a big challenge as well.
Okay, so I'm going to have another sip and another cheers to you.
All right, salud.
And if I may, have you done any other kind of professions? Are there any other jobs or career or anything that we might not know about, or maybe some of us have heard about, but we just want to get some of that true history of your upbringing?
I was a musician. I played a bass before I joined the industry. It was in the US. I started playing in bands when I was 15 years old. I was actually a union member, musicians union member. I was able to play in bars and nightclubs when I was 15 with my union card, staying away from the bar, of course, and away from drinking. But I actually was able to finance part of my university education, playing at night in bands, and then of course starting during the day. When my first son was born, Fernando, I decided that I needed a day job and get a career path more defined. I was studying architecture at the time, so that's when I joined the industry in 1980, when he was 1 year old. And then eventually it absorbed me. There was a lot of interesting learnings involved there. And for a few years I still didn't think it was going to be my career. And then when I started in the quality assurance area, I became so involved with it. I mean, it's definitely a combination of science and art, making spirits.
You're like the David Bowie of Mexico. Okay, that's great. And actually, I did know that, and I have Googled this Mexican band, Venus, and I have found you wearing some incredible glitzy outfits that represent the 1970s. And I think if anyone was to meet you now, may find that hard to believe because of your calm demeanour. But it's brilliant to see those images. So thank you for sharing that. We launched Altos Tequila 10 years ago, 11 years ago. I remember the first time we met, and it wasn't when we started talking about this project of Altos. It was actually a couple of years before, so that was my second trip to Mexico. That's how I kind of gauge things, first trip, second trip. First trip with Julio, 2004. Second trip was also with Julio 2005, but Henry and I decided to visit a lot of different distilleries, and we came to see you. It was just the two of us, and in a very obnoxious way, I think we were testing you to ask questions about how you made your mixto tequila, and you were extremely honest, and actually every answer you gave us was, for me, a very correct answer. Olmeca is a very commercial product, it's made in a more commercial way, but still with integrity. And I'm digressing, but my question is, do you recall us coming back a couple of years later, and what do you remember from that? I'd love to hear your version, if that's okay.
Yeah, we had during the first visit, we were very much involved in making Olmeca. Olmeca was really our main tequila. And I remember the group that you came with, you were all very much in love with tequila, which was very interesting, but also almost insisted that to be a good tequila, it had to be 100% agave. And of course, we make tequila, all the tequilas we make, including mixtos, like Olmeca, we do it with the same care. So it's genuine, it is different from 100% agave tequilas. And I recall during the second visit that you came, we were involved with other projects already, making various 100% agave tequilas, but one in particular I remember that caught the interest was Tesoro, which was 100% agave made with an artisanal process, using a tawana to crush the cooked agave, ferment and distill with the fibers. And the way we made it, it was very refined tequila. And it caught the attention of a lot of tequila lovers. I was very proud of what the team here in the distillery and I had accomplished with making Tesoro.
So you're absolutely right. We were lucky to be invited back by House of Tequila, and you were already working on that project, and we were fortunate to come in, I'd say, right time, right place. And what was utterly brilliant is that you were open-minded to say, hey Henry, hey Dré, how do you see this? And actually being totally frank with you, because that is such a rare circumstance, I almost ignored the whole process. I didn't think that it was something that would become a reality, and lo and behold, it did. So I'd like to share a little story with you, and then I'd love to get a feeling of your sentiments of this kind of situation. So I'd say a little over 10 years ago, before we started this project, probably more like 2007, I was in the States touring with a group of bartenders and distillers. We were showcasing English gin to the Americans, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great road trip. And on that trip, we had Sean from Plymouth and Desmond from Beefeater Gin. And we walked into a great bar in San Francisco, and I was stood next to them. And I remember this key moment where I looked at the bar, and right in front of us, in the little gin section, and gin wasn't a big deal then, not as big a deal as it is now, was Beefeater Gin and Plymouth. And I was stood next to the distillers, and we were about to order a drink, and I introduced the distillers to the bartender. The bartender felt very privileged that they were in the venue. And I remember at that point, and they're pretty relaxed guys, but I remember at that pivotal moment thinking, that must be so cool to see something that you've made stand so significantly on the back bar, and the person who's using that liquid understand what it is. and hopefully I haven't taken too much away from the answer, but I know that you love to travel, and with the tequilas that you've made, you've travelled a lot. And yeah, what's your feeling about that when you do you have emotional ties to that kind of experience? How do you feel when you see something you've made on a bar in a country outside of Mexico?
Well, it makes me very proud of the accomplishment of the team, the distillery team that have worked very hard on a lot of projects. Of course, the teams that develop the brands, that promote it, bartenders that help us present it to consumers lastly. So it's a sense of pride to see our bottles ending up in shelves in a lot of places in remote areas of the world. Very well.
Is there a place in this world that has given you, an ultra special feeling or reception, or is there a city or country you never thought you'd visit and you had the chance to experience that with your tequilas?
I remember the 2 or 3 particular places, but I'll comment about one that I felt so distant from my home now. It was so gratifying to be able to have a tequila there. This was in South Africa. South Africa. Very, very remote. But people love tequila there, especially the tequila we make here in Hernandez. So for me, it was a very memorable trip, and I was so impressed that the people there received our tequila in consuming so well.
Good. I like the way this is going, and thank you so much for all your honesty. I want you to be completely honest here. How does Jesús Hernández drink tequila when you go to, say, a Mexican cantina, or when you're at home, or when you're in one of these foreign countries?
Fair question. For me, it's a matter of moment. I enjoy it in different ways. I like well-made mixed drink, like crafted Panoma. I enjoy that, especially in warm days. Outstanding. In events, different events, I enjoy tequila in a tall glass. But then, when it kind of all quiets down, I like finishing up an evening with drinking a tequila neat. I don't do a lot of shots, although from time to time I do that. But I like to be able to savor, smell, and taste the tequila. So I drink it slowly at room temperature neat.
Okay. So this is. I hope I want to be diplomatic about how I say this, because I think you're an incredibly diplomatic person and very humble. And I knew the question today would make you feel uncomfortable if we emphasize too much on your success, if you like, oh hell, I'm going to embarrass you. I've heard some great phrases before, like the gentleman of the Highlands, and I hope you take that with a pinch of salt, but also in the right way. I've heard through a lot of other distillers in the industry that you're very well respected, so congratulations there. And every moment we've had together, I think, has been a golden moment where I've walked away fulfilled. And I know a lot of people that spend time with you, and they always say, what a lovely person, full stop. And I know that with Henry and I, you were incredibly generous about this whole idea of developing something new for the world. But I also, I just wondered how it works here at the factory, if you've been able to share that knowledge, share your experience. Is there any kind of cascade effect within, within the distillery? Have you, all your information that you've built over the last 40 years, are they guarded secrets, or have you been able to distribute them amongst your staff?
I don't think it's a secret. For me, making tequila pleasant, consistently, and to satisfy the expectations and even exceed expectations of consumers, the key is putting together a team to be committed on the quality of that tequila. So whether I'm around or not, even before I pass away, hopefully it'll be a while, the team here, I'm sure, is able to make and continue making tequilas just the way we have been up to now. So I think the secret ingredient would be inspiring a team to do it well, and of course, measuring. Measuring is important so that we keep consistency. So we make tequila, I say it often, we make tequila the old-fashioned way with precision.
Okay, so enough talk about tequila and the distillery. I think it's important for us to know a little bit more about you. So I just want to know what you do in your spare time. If you were going to cook a meal tomorrow for yourself, for us, what would it be? If you were going to put a record on, what would we be listening to? If you had, an empty Sunday here in Arandas, where would you take me? What would we do?
Well, I like dogs. I have 5. I like working with my hands, so fixing things, planting, growing things like chiles and peaches and apples. Basically staying busy physically. I enjoy that, and of course writing ATVs. When I host people, I invite them to I have a country home where I grow these things, and I like to share the things that my wife and I have been able to make in this place. I like cooking. Carne asada is one of my favorite things to offer. Of course, combined with longaniza or chorizo and guacamole. So I'm getting hungry. That's what I enjoy doing. Basically, enjoying the outdoors, the wonderful climate that we have here in Arandas, and the smell of wood burning. It's very, very unique, very special, and sharing that with people that come and visit. I would sing very old-fashioned, but I do enjoy music. I enjoy music, listening to music well before my time, what my dad used to hear. I enjoy that. But I think what I enjoy the most is the mariachi music. Not just the popular mariachi music, but also the classical mariachi music. And every year in Guadalajara there's a mariachi festival, and I've been there probably around 10 different times. So I enjoy that a lot, and for me it has no obsolescence. It just doesn't go away.
Jesus, thank you so much. I'd love to leave this interview with you saying a few words to the camera. Over to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a wonderful 40 years. It was not the plan, but I've enjoyed just about every year of that. Because of that, I've been able to meet so many different people, this time. And I think that's really what makes the industry special. It's about people. If we talk about tequila, a lot of people don't know that jornaleros take care of the agave for at least 7 years, and they never talk about it. Jimadores, which is a really hard job, it's a specialty job. Now they get a lot more attention, and deservedly so. And of course, a lot of people here at the distillery work very hard every day to put together this wonderful spirit called tequila. And doesn't stop there. There's a lot of people that work very hard to promote it, to get it to different corners of the world. And then, people that drive trucks, people that host consumers either in bars and restaurants. They work very hard every day to have an enjoyable experience. So these 40 years, I met so many hardworking people, and I think that's probably my biggest reward. I've been able to raise my 3 children very well, went through school, put them together, had a great life. I enjoy a slower pace now, but I still enjoy people contact. And hopefully we'll be able to get more of that in the next year or so. Cheers, salud.